Hey, all my beautiful brides, it's Shelby at Vintage Chic. It's been a hard couple of days, but didn't open on April 1st like I thought I was going to. But if we all stick together and stay home and, remain hopeful and not kill our fiancés and husbands and children, we'll get through this. So the faster everybody comes together and stays home, the quicker we can get through this. So stay hopeful, stay healthy, and we'll get through it. I'm gonna give you some interesting content today, I think. There were a lot of things that when I got into the bridal world really surprised me that it isn't really common knowledge and nobody really talks about it, so I thought I'd do a video on it. So today, you're getting an inside look at the bridal world. Okay, so first let's talk about designers. So you have designers like Maggie Sottero, Allure, Maury Lee, and there's so many more. And then you have what's a private label like what I carry. Now, 95% of bridal designers have what's called exclusivity. The other 5% are like more of an a la carte and there's no exclusivity, but most bridal designers have what's called exclusivity. So what does that mean? That means that I have my private line. Nobody else, no other bridal shops in a 60-mile radius can carry that designer. Okay, so before I get too much into exclusivity, I'm gonna talk about buying bridal gowns, so that way when I circle back to the pros and cons of exclusivity, it makes a little more sense. So as a bridal shop, when you are picking up a designer, you're typically required to meet minimums. That, like I said, this is 95% of the business. You're required to meet minimums. Some designers are two per year a minimum. And then like my private label is a 1 per year a minimum. So what does that mean? So we go to market, bridal shop owners go to market typically twice a year. The closest one here is Chicago, and there's ones in Atlanta and New York. So when you go to market, you look at the new collection for the season. Typically, even if the minimums for the designer are once a year, like my private label, they'll come out with new designs twice a year, but I only have to buy a certain amount over the year rather than twice a year, like some designers do. Mainly the big ones do twice a year though. So like Allure, Maggie Sottero, you go to market, you look at their new collection, and you are required to pick up a minimum every season. One of the biggest things that surprised me when I got into the bridal industry was that, so you have your minimums, but then that means that bridal shop owners are buying those dresses. I thought that it was more of a, they send you the loaner dresses and you get every dress every season, and that's not how it works, unfortunately, which is kind of why I'll circle back and talk about exclusivity, kind of the pros and cons. So when you go to market, you're looking at a selection of typically 30 dresses. Some are higher, some are lower. And you're looking at a selection of dresses, and minimums typically range between like 8 and 12. Some are higher, some are lower, but you're required to pick up 8 to 12 roughly dresses per season, which is a lot. I mean, not a lot of dresses, but it's a lot of money. It's a big investment. Bridal shop owners are making a really big investment when they have designers that are orderable dresses. So the other thing to consider is that when you have a line that you pick up, you're usually under an umbrella of a major designer. So like Maggie Sottero. Maggie Sottero has Rebecca Ingram, Maggie Sottero, and Sottero and Midgley. So if you carry all three of those lines, you have 3 separate minimums of 8 to 12 per year. And that's a lot of money. So when you're looking at these dresses at market, you're looking at, like I said, a selection of around 30 gowns, and you're trying to pick 8 to 12 out of those that would best fit your area, which is why it's so important for bridal shop owners to have a good handle and a good idea of what their area is like, price points, fabrics, silhouettes, what works well for your community. So when you're handpicking these dresses, you're keeping your bride in mind, because you can't pick up, most people can't pick up every dress. That would be just way too expensive to do that every season. So when you're picking up your minimums, you have, 8 to 12 that you're picking from a line. So what happens to those other dresses? Like, how do I try those dresses on? That's where the exclusivity kind of gets a little tricky. So since I'm not picking up every single dress from a designer twice a year, that means that there are dresses that I can't bring into my store. So that means that a bride's gonna have to find somewhere else that carries that designer to be able to try that dress on, which if it's a 60-mile radius, if I don't have a dress that they want to try on, they have to travel 60 miles to do that. Now, there is a catch. Designers like Maggie Sottero, Allure, I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head, but they do what's called a loaner program. So if you have a dress that you really want to try on and you really want to go to this bridal shop and they don't have it, they can actually get a loaner from their designer to be able to have that dress in the shop for you to try on. There's kind of a catch with that as well though, because so when you have a dress that's coming in from a loaner program, that typically costs money to rent that dress to be able to have you try it on. So typically you're looking at a fee to be able to try those dresses on. Some bridal shops waive that fee, but others charge. And then you are very limited on the size and the color that you get to try on. Unfortunately for plus size girls, loaner programs are just not that great. I don't know why, because there's plenty of plus size girls out there and we need to try on dresses too, but most bridal loaner programs are very limited in size. And if it's like, oh, I want to try that in an ivory cashmere instead of an ivory, you don't have an option. You're just basically getting it to get an idea of whether you like it or not, and then you can order it in the size and color that works for you. So the other thing to keep in mind about a loaner program is that there's usually a limited amount of loaners for each style of dress, and not every style of dress typically has a loaner either, which is kind of frustrating. But there's usually a limited selection, like I said, size and color, but there's only so many, because everybody that's, let's say Maggie Sotero, every bridal shop owner that carries Maggie Sotero is borrowing from that loaner program, and there's only so many loaner dresses to go around. So the time frame that you could be waiting to try on one of those dresses is kind of hit or miss. So now, as a bridal shop owner, you picked your minimums, you've chosen the dresses that you think are perfect for your brides, and you bring them back. You can pick up more, it's just you're required to pick up a certain amount for the season or per year. So you have those dresses and you order them. You have to wait just like every bride does, and it can take 15 to 20 weeks for that dress to come in. So once those dresses come in, you have brand new, fresh stuff. Depending on how long you've carried the line, if you've carried it for a couple of years, you can kind of go back through your old inventory and then start selling those dresses off the rack. So that way people that are in a time crunch or just typically it's a lower price to buy an off the rack dress. So there are exceptions, and I get asked this question a lot because I am partially off the rack and then I have orderable dresses as well. But I'll have a girl that comes in and they're like, I get married in 2 months and I need a wedding dress, which isn't enough time for me to order. So I have a good selection for you to try on. I have a very expansive selection of off the rack dresses, but they see one on my orderable rack and they're like, well, can I try this one on? And it's like, no, you can't. I'm sorry, but you can't. Typically I won't sell those dresses, and most bridal shops won't sell good selling stock pieces off the rack until they're discontinued, because you're technically could be missing out on potential sales by not having that dress for someone to try on. So if somebody comes in and they really like Camilla and I sell it to them off the rack, that means that anybody else that comes in that wants a crepe fitted gown with a beautiful train, I have limited options on what I can show you, and I can't, there's nothing else in my orderable collection to compare to that. So like I said, there are extenuating circumstances that I would sell one off the rack if it was like, you know, an emergency wedding for, you know, somebody getting shipped overseas for the military or something like that. But typically I would only do it if there was another stock piece already in the queue for my designer, which they like overmake some gowns. But yeah, that's really the only time that I would do that. So that's why you need to shop early. You need to shop on time so you can get the dress you want. So just like a designer makes new dresses every season for bridal shops to buy, they also discontinue styles as well. And that's kind of where the off the rack option comes into play. That's how I get the dresses that I do from bridal shops across the United States, because there's dresses that typically the discontinued dresses are styles that aren't as popular, or there's something that's come out in the new collection that's really similar, but there's this minor things changed about it. So then they'll move the old dress to discontinued, which means that you can no longer order it and you can no longer purchase the gown. So this is especially important when you're talking about, you know, I have brides that come in and they're like, oh, you know, I don't want to decide yet. I have a couple more months. Well, I mean, technically that dress could be discontinued and then you're kind of missing out. So unless the dress that you tried on is the size and color that you need, you're missing out on your dress because it was discontinued and they don't make it and you can't order it anymore. Okay, so let's take a deep dive into pricing. I know that's always on everybody's mind. You know, how much is this thing gonna cost me? Why is it so expensive? But you really have to take into account that the dresses that are coming from designers that are reputable, not like China-made dresses, but like actual reputable designers, they're handmade, they're hand stitched. Everything is ordered for you. It's ordered to your size. It's made with you in mind. You're getting what you pay for. I mean, that's the only thing I can really say about that. But then kind of going back to what I had said before, bridal shop owners buy the dresses that you're trying on. So we're kind of taking the risk just as much as you are. We're buying dresses in hopes that people are going to like it, but they could not like it. And then you're kind of stuck with a dress that's a sitting duck. So pricing though, when you go into a bridal shop, typically, I mean, the dresses that I have are all under $2,000. But every bridal shop is going to be different. Some are going to be way higher than that. Some are going to be lower than that. But typically when you have a dress that's orderable, there's what's called an MSRP. So MSRP means that the designer is saying, hey, you have to sell this dress for at least this price and you can't go any lower. Some designers don't do an MSRP. You can sell them for whatever you want. But most other designers are like, you have to stick at this price point. And if they find out that you're below that price point, you could lose the line. You could not carry it anymore. So that's kind of a thing to keep in mind when you're talking to somebody about a bridal shop owner about an orderable dress that you really love and you want them to go lower on the price. Sometimes they can't. And most of the time they can't, because I mean, Dubuque is a really budget conscious bride. So we're pricing things at the best price for our brides because we know that the budget is at the forefront of your mind. So again, kind of circling back to the exclusivity piece, going over the pros and cons. So the pros are really more geared towards bridal shop owners. Bridal shops, like I said, you can't carry the same dress as somebody that's 10 blocks down the road from you. So you're not competing directly on the same dress and then having price wars and all that stuff. So, but I mean, I honestly kind of wonder what it would be like in a bridal world where there was no exclusivity. Everybody could carry the same dress, price it at the same price, and then you just go to the shop that offers the best experience. So I don't think that'll ever happen, but I always thought that would be kind of interesting. So then you have the cons, which, like I said, so if a bridal shop can't afford to pick up every dress from every season, from every designer, there's going to be a bride that comes in and they're like, I saw this dress online on Allure's website and I really want to try it on. Well, you can't because I didn't order it and it's not in the loaner program, or, you know, okay, so now you're going to have to go 60 miles outside of that, which I don't know if Allure is 60 miles, but there's a certain amount of radius that somebody else can't carry that dress. So now you're on the hunt looking for this one dress. You're like, I have to try this one dress on to get it out of my mind, to check it off, to make sure that it's not the one because I really like this dress. You're on a wild goose hunt trying to look for that dress at some boutiques, because some dresses that girls like are really different dresses. They're very unique, and it's something that when you're a bridal shop owner and you're picking your minimums, you're picking for like your overall bride, not for, you know, the individual bride necessarily. So if you have that dress that you're really wanting to try on, like I said, you're kind of in a wild goose hunt trying to find the perfect dress that you, in your mind, is the perfect dress. And you just can't find anywhere to try it on because not everybody's required to pick up the dresses, and it would be unreasonable to require every bridal shop to pick up every dress every season if they're creating 30 of them. So I'm rambling, but yeah, so that's kind of where the cons are. You could be missing out on a dress that you really want to try on if no other bridal shop has it in a reasonable amount of miles away. So I hope you guys learned a lot from this video. Like I said, it's interesting to me because I'm in the bridal world and I find it interesting, but I didn't know if you guys would find it interesting. So let me know in the comments what you think, if you found out some new information that you liked. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Give it a heart, give it an awesome face, whatever you got to do. Just let me know that you're watching so that I can keep creating this content. Because if I don't get feedback, it's like, well, I'm talking to myself. So, but that's going to wrap it up for me, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay hopeful. I love you guys. Bye.